Okay, what if I told you that the smallest, tiniest changes you make could actually lead to the most incredible results in your life? I mean, that's the whole idea behind James Clear's atomic habits. It's this concept that these tiny daily habits, they're the source of this immense power, and they just compound over time into something, well, extraordinary. So let's break that down. All right, let's start with a feeling I think we all know. You're putting in the work, maybe at the gym or on a big project, maybe you're learning a new skill, and for weeks, maybe even months, you just see nothing. It feels like you are spinning your wheels going nowhere. Well, this graph, it just perfectly captures that feeling, that frustration. James Clear actually has a name for it, the valley of disappointment. It's that gap between what we think should happen and what's actually happening. So, why does that gap even exist? Well, it's because of a huge misunderstanding we all have. We tend to think progress is, well, linear, a straight line up. But the real secret, the big paradigm shift in this book, is this: small habits don't just add up, they compound. Yeah, just like money earning interest in a bank account, the effects of your habits actually multiply the more you repeat them. So here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll look at the power of getting just 1% better. Then we'll talk about why systems matter more than goals. After that, we'll dive into identity-based habits. And finally, we'll get super practical with the 4 laws of change, so you can literally start your first tiny habit today. All right, first up, the power of 1%. It's so easy to just dismiss these tiny improvements, right? I mean, what's the big deal about reading 1 page or doing just 2 push-ups? But the math behind these tiny gains is, well, it's staggering. If you get just 1% better each day, by the end of the year, you're not just a little better, you're 37 times better. It's all about that cumulative effect. And listen, this isn't just some nice theory, it actually works in the real world. Take the British cycling team. For about 100 years, they were pretty mediocre. Then they brought in this guy, Dave Brailsford, and he introduced this idea of the aggregation of marginal gains. They looked for a 1% improvement in everything. I'm talking redesigned bike seats, rubbing alcohol on tires for better grip, even hiring a surgeon to teach the team how to wash their hands properly to avoid getting sick. They even painted the inside of the team truck white just to spot dust on the bikes easier. And the result? They went on to absolutely dominate the sport for the next decade. But here's the catch. These gains, they're not always visible right away. And James Clear has this brilliant analogy for it. Imagine an ice cube sitting in a room that's 25 degrees. Nothing happens. You raise it to 26, 27, 28, still nothing. Even at 31 degrees, it just sits there, looking exactly the same. But that 1 degree shift to 32 degrees unlocks this massive transformation. It starts to melt. Well, all your efforts are doing the same thing. They're just raising the temperature, bit by bit. So remember that valley of disappointment we looked at earlier? The crucial thing to understand is that it's really a plateau of latent potential. Your work isn't being wasted. Not at all. It's being stored. All that energy is building up. You just haven't hit that 32-degree breakthrough moment yet. The key is you have to trust the process. Okay, so if we're supposed to trust the process, how do we build a better process? Well, that leads us right into our second big idea, focusing on systems, not goals. And honestly, this is a total game changer. See, goals are about the results you want to get, but systems are about the processes that'll actually get you there. And this here shows the difference perfectly. A goal, that's winning a championship. The system, that's never missing a practice. A goal is to publish a book. The system is writing 1 page every single day. Look, goals are great, they set your direction, but it's the systems that actually get you moving. And this brings us to one of the most powerful, most famous lines from the entire book. It's this: you do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. Think about that for a second. Winners and losers, they often have the exact same goals. What separates them? It's their system. Okay, this next idea takes things to an even deeper level. We're talking about identity-based habits. This isn't just about what you want to achieve, it's about who you want to become. Because at the end of the day, true, lasting behavior change is really identity change. Just think about it for a second. It's one thing to say, I want to run a marathon. That's a goal. But it's something else entirely to say, I am a runner. That's an identity. See, when your behaviors and your identity are completely aligned, you're not even trying to change anymore. You're just acting like the type of person you already believe you are. Here's a great little story to illustrate this. There's this guy, Brian Clark, who was a lifelong nail biter. He tried everything, willpower, you name it, nothing worked. But one day, he decided to go get his first ever professional manicure. And for the first time, his nails looked really nice. He actually started to feel proud of them. And right there, his identity shifted. He stopped seeing himself as a nail biter and started seeing himself as someone who takes care of his nails. He has never chewed them since. That's a permanent change. So this flips the whole script. The most important question isn't what do I want to achieve? It's who is the type of person that could get that outcome? So instead of I want to write a book, you ask, what does a writer do? Well, a writer writes every single day. And every time you sit down and write, even one page, you are casting a vote for your new identity as a writer. Okay, so we've got the mindset down. Now let's get the toolkit. It's time to get really practical with the 4 laws of change. This is a super simple framework for building good habits and, just as important, for breaking the bad ones. The 4 laws are super straightforward. 1, make it obvious. 2, make it attractive. 3, make it easy. And 4, make it satisfying. And here's the cool part. To break a bad habit, you just flip them. Make it invisible, unattractive, difficult, and unsatisfying. It's simple, but man, is it effective. All right, law number 1, make it obvious. You know, our environment is kind of like this invisible hand that guides our behavior more than we realize. So if you want to eat more fruit, don't hide it in the fridge. Put a big bowl of fruit right on the kitchen counter where you'll see it. Want to practice guitar more? Don't leave it in the case in the closet. Put it on a stand right in the middle of your living room. The idea is to design your space so your good habits are the easiest, most obvious path to take. Second law, make it attractive. We are social creatures, right? We're wired to fit in with the tribe. So the secret here is to join a culture where the behavior you want is the normal behavior. If you want to get fit, start hanging out with people who are already fit. You'll find that their habits, their way of life, start to seem way more attractive and way more achievable for you too. Okay, number 3 is a big one. Make it easy. We all know the hardest part of a new habit is just starting. So this is where the 2-minute rule comes in, and it's brilliant. You scale your habit down so it takes less than 2 minutes to do. So do 30 minutes of yoga becomes take out my yoga mat. Read before bed becomes read 1 page. Study for class, just open my notes. The point isn't to change the world in 2 minutes. The point is to master the art of just showing up. And finally, the 4th law, make it satisfying. See, our brains are wired for immediate rewards. We want to feel good now. This story is the perfect example of how to use that. There was a young stockbroker who had to make 120 sales calls every single day. So what did he do? He put 2 jars on his desk. One was filled with 120 paper clips, and the other was empty. After every single call, he'd move 1 paper clip over. That small visual sign of progress, it was immediately satisfying. And that feeling is what locks the habit in place. So we've covered a lot, right? The incredible power of 1% improvements, why systems and identity are so crucial, and those 4 simple laws. Now let's bring it all together and figure out, where do you start? Like today, right now. So here we are, back at this graph from the beginning, but hopefully you see it a little differently now. That plateau, it's not failure, it's potential. Every single tiny action, every paper clip you move from one jar to the other, it's all storing up energy. You just have to stay in the game long enough for that breakthrough to happen. And really, that's the entire philosophy in a nutshell. Real lasting progress isn't about one giant leap. It's the result of thousands of tiny atomic habits, all accumulating and compounding over time into something truly remarkable. So I'm going to leave you with a question. For just a minute, forget about your big goals. Instead, think about your system. Think about the identity, the type of person you want to become. Now, what's one tiny 2-minute action you can take today, right now, to cast a vote for that person? What's your first atomic habit going to be?